Good day everyone, we are the Group 6 and we are here to discuss the online communities of learning. So what is an online community of learning? So online community of learning is an online community or internet community which is a group of people with a shared interest or purpose who use the internet to communicate with each other. Online communities have their own set of guidelines and needs, like online community engagement, moderation, and management. Some examples of online learning activities are synchronous, asynchronous online discussions, online self-assessments, blogs, virtual field trips, case studies, simulations, concept mapping, and interactive learning objects. In an online community, people connect to each other with the purpose of sharing what they feel, think, or desire.
Now let's tackle the philosophies of education. As a future educator, it is crucial to know and understand the philosophies of education. Many of the practices that we have, teaching practices and learning strategies that we employ nowadays are all rooted from the different sets of beliefs, these different philosophies of education. That is why we are here to scrutinize the 5 philosophies of education, focusing on their implication to the teaching and learning process. When we say philosophies, we are referring to the sets of beliefs that would inform us how to live, how to work, and how to interact with other people. And for philosophies of education, as we are a future educator, it would mean a set of beliefs that would inform us how to teach, what to teach, and why teach. The philosophy of education examines the goals, forms, methods, and meaning of education. It is important to know that philosophy and education are interrelated. In order to become the most effective educator we can be, we must understand our own beliefs while at the same time empathizing others. So the first philosophy of education is essentialism. It is introduced by William C. Bagley. In this philosophy, essentialist believes that essence precedes existence, meaning before we exist in this world, we have already a life that are destined to be. Our essence or our purpose comes before our presence, like what others says that the life we are destined, or let's say before pa ta nabuhi, there already a life prepared for us. Others also says that we can't control our own life because whether we like it or not, we have to live the life that is destined for us. Maybe this explains why in our life there's things that we can't control. Like for instance, the course that we take. Some of us don't imagine nga magmaestra or mo take og education nga course, but they ended up in education. It is because, according to the essentialists, if we are destined to be one, no matter what we do, we will end up becoming such. Even when we choose the person we love, we have standards nga dapat ingani ako mauyab or dapat ingani siya kagwapo or gwapa. We create an image of our ideal man and woman, but when we try to look at the person we are with now, our boyfriend or girlfriends maybe, mahibong ta why is it the exact opposite of our ideal man or woman? So maybe this is the power of fate or the power of destiny, that no matter how we try to get away from that person, we end up being with that person. We don't know, but there are things really that we cannot control. And because of that, because the essentialists believe that there is already a life that is prepared for everyone, the role of the teacher is to teach learners the basic knowledge, skills, and values. It is a traditional approach that emphasizes the basic skills or the fundamental R's: the reading, writing, arithmetic, and right contact. This is the focus of the essentialist classroom. The teacher job is to make sure that students would acquire these 4 basic skills because according to the essentialists, if the student or a pupil acquire these 4 essential skills, it would just be very easy for these students to acquire more higher or more complex skills needed in preparation for adult life. So How could a person adopt more complex skills if this person does not acquire the basic ones? So, we've got to be equipped with the basic skills before we can acquire more complicated skills. Also, in essentialist classroom, it is a teacher-centered, meaning everything comes from a teacher. They are the one who decide what is most important for the students to learn without considering students' interest, background, and learning style. The teachers are the fountains of knowledge, the paragon of virtues. So that is why teachers should master their subject. They have to rely heavily on the use of prescribed textbooks. So no matter how thick the book, the teacher should make sure that madiscuss niya tanang topics and that the students can master it also. Some method that is used in essentialism are drill method, lecture method, memorization, and also put emphasis in discipline. Just like in our elementary days, our teacher tasked or let us memorize the multiplication table, some poems, and more. Next is perennialism. Perennialism is proposed by Robert Hutchins and Mortimer Adler. Perennialists believe in things that ageless, eternal, and unchanged. They also believe that truth is universal and that the truth does not depend on circumstances of time, place, and person. They called it transcendent truths and transcendent values. It means what's the truth in the Philippines, most ay tinuod sa other countries. And what's the truth in the past is also the truth in the present. So kung unsay tinuod sa una, most ay tinuod sa karon. Transcendent truths and transcendent values. The perennialists would believe on those that there are values which are unchanging and that there are values that are eternal. Also, the perennials believe that we are all rational animals, and because of that, schools should therefore develop, aside from the students' rationality, then the school should also develop the moral powers of each students that we have. Because according to Aristotle, if we neglect the students' reasoning skills, we deprive them of the ability to use their higher faculties to control their passion and appetites. And I totally agree with that. That is why our brain is on the top of everything. For our head or our rationality or our brain should control the heart, the feelings, the desires, and also should control the appetite. So according to Aristotle and all the perennialists, if we fail to develop our reasoning or our mental faculty, then we also fail to control the lower faculties that we have. So if someone has a strong will or rationality, then it would be a lot easier for this person to control the emotion and at the same time to control the desire. And the perennialist curriculum is also a universal because of the view that all human beings possess the same essential nature. And that's why they focus more on humanities or on general education subjects, and there is less emphasis on educational and technical education. So what the perennialist teachers teach are all lifted from the great books because they believe that they can acquire a lot of learnings in great books. They can acquire a lot of knowledge in history, religion, literature. For perennialists believe that the past ideas are still relevant. The perennialist curriculum is actually based on recurrent themes just like Rizal. We study the Rizal's life and works when we are in the first year. And we wonder why we're still studying Rizal where in fact dugay na siyang namatay. There's no Spaniards na sad nga mosakop nato and so on. But why are we still studying it? It is because in perennialist view, they believe that history is recurrent theme. What happens in Rizal's time can still possibly happen in the present. And the learnings that we obtain in studying Rizal is we can apply it to the present. That is why in perennialist classroom, since it is also a centered on teachers, the teachers don't allow students' interests or experiences to substantially dictate what they teach. It is as well curriculum based, and it also based on what happened in the past that are supposed to be studied at present. They only focus on that and does not consider the students' interests and experiences. That is why they apply creative techniques and try two methods to discipline a student's mind so they may be able to become better learners. In perennialist classroom, we love to do what we call Socratic dialogue or Socratic methods, questions and answers activities, intellectual debates, or dialogue that develop inquiry and develop understanding of the history's most timeless concepts. So the history, religion, and literature are crucial for all perennialists, for they believe that we can find wisdom from the past.
So, behaviorism philosophy is the next philosophy proposed by John Watson B.F. Skinner. Human beings are shaped. So, behaviorism believes that human beings are shaped by environment and that man, good or bad, are merely a product of the society where he belongs. So, behaviorists are concerned to modification and shaping of students' behavior by providing a favor of environment, since they believe that we are a product of our environment. So, behaviorist teachers teach students to respond to various stimuli in the environment. So, teachers also arrange environmental conditions so that students can make the responses stimuli. They provide reinforcement and punishment to reinforce positive responses, or we can eliminate negative ones. The next philosophy that we'll be discussing is the philosophy of existentialism, so given by Jean-Paul Sartre and Joben Kierkegaard, and the defining features of existentialism is existence precedes essence. So when we speak of existence, we mean presence. You are alive. You are here on earth. When you speak of essence, that will be mean your purpose, your function, your significance, your importance. So when Sartre said existence precedes essence, he might mean that your presence comes before your significant. So meaning you got to allow to be alive first so that you know your purpose. The person has to experience life first. The person to walk a lot of tasks first because he will know his real essence. So, okay, that is why this philosophy known to be the philosophy of subjectivity, because it believes in the power of man to create his own life. According to the existentialism, man is capable enough of creating his own life, creating meaning of the life provided him, and the man is capable enough to do whatever he wants in life, so that if you success in your life, you can congratulate yourself. If you failed, then do not blame other people of your failure. You have to blame no one except yourself. Because you make your own life, you make your own choices, and that you live your own life. No one is in control of your life except yourself. That is why the existentialists explain that people are free to choose what to make of their lives. So people are free to choose. They have their own rationality. They're the highest forms of animals. Also, they can free to choose what they would want to do, their lives, and that their individuals' passions are what drive them. So, meaning the life a person creates depends on the passions that drives him, depends on the goals that drives him. So, alright, the main concern of existentialists is to help students understand and appreciate themselves as unique individuals, to accept complete responsibility, thoughts, feelings, and actions. So, in existentialist curriculum, students are given a wide variety of options from which to choose. Humanities are given emphasis. So, existentialist methods focus on the individual. Learning is self-paced and self-directed. The next one is progressivism by John Dewey. It is about learning by doing. So this is an opposite from essentialism and perennialism, because in progressivism believes in the change and growth. Everything changes, everyone's grows, so that learning should be enlightened and intelligent to fully live their lives now. Not tomorrow, but now. Progressivism aims to develop learners into becoming enlightened and intelligent citizens. So, progressivism's curriculum that responds to students' needs that relate to their personal lives and experience. Teachers teach students things that are practical for life and encourage them to grow and to better people. They also teach students the skill to cope the change. Progressivism's teachers employ experimental methods. They believe that one learns by doing.
Online classes are classified into two categories, synchronous and asynchronous, each of which corresponds to different students' interests, personalities, and learning styles. People may learn in new and creative ways due mainly to online learning, but the optimal form of online learning is a question of personal preference. What is online learning? Takes place in real time with groups of learners, can be done online via live webinars, instant messaging, and virtual classrooms, collaborative and feedback-friendly. Synchronous learning refers to any form of learning that occurs in real time and involves a group of people learning at the same time. Although learning takes place at the same time, learners don't have to be there in person or even in the same location. Synchronous learning allows learners to ask questions and receives answers in real time, while also freely communicating with their co-learners. Synchronous learning is a common method for staff training. It's a method that works well for learning about new corporate regulations or software that's being carried out. When done right, it's also useful for customer and partner training as it creates a beneficial feedback loop. Here are some examples of synchronous learning: live webinars, video conferencing, virtual classrooms, and instant messaging. Now, what is asynchronous learning? A more learner-centered approach can be completed through online courses, email, blogs, pre-recorded videos or webinars, online discussion boards. Learners complete courses in their own time and regardless of location. Asynchronous learning is more learner-centered. It allows students to finish classes without needing to be at a specific location and at a specific time. In essence, asynchronous learning does not limit learners based on their location or time. Asynchronous learners can complete course materials whenever and from wherever they choose, as long as they have access to the internet. Asynchronous learning, while not taking place in real time, nevertheless enables the opportunities for feedback. Learners are allowed to share their views and questions with teachers and other students, but they may not receive an immediate response. Some examples of asynchronous learning include online courses, email, blogs, pre-recorded video lessons or webinars, and online forums and discussion boards. Synchronous virtual classrooms function similarly to traditional classrooms, with predetermined study schedules and live discussions, while asynchronous classrooms seem different because students absorb learning material and converse with one another on their own timetable. Synchronous versus asynchronous learning, pros and cons. When comparing synchronous and asynchronous learning, both have advantages and disadvantages. What may appeal to one learner may not appeal to another. Let's look more closely at some of the main pros and cons of each. Pros of synchronous learning: high interaction with instructors and other learners. Feedback is immediate. Learner questions can be answered instantly. Because of the social nature of synchronous learning, learners can easily interact with instructors and other learners, making group activities possible. Synchronous learning takes place in real time, which means learner can get immediate feedback. Ideas and opinions can also be promptly shared with fellow learners. Similarly, if your learners are having trouble with any of the course content, synchronous learning allows them to ask questions and get instantaneous answers. Let's go to the pros of asynchronous learning. Offers flexibility as learners go at their own pace. It's cost-effective, no travel venue or instructor cost. Scales training as you can train thousands of learners at once. Asynchronous learning offers lots of flexibility. Although there's usually a deadline in sight, asynchronous learners can progress at their own pace and access their course at any time they choose and from any place. It's a cost-effective way to train learners that are based in varying locations. Asynchronous learning means your learners can engage in courses regardless of their time zone or location. With synchronous learning, learners have significantly more time to reflect on the materials they are learning, which means they are likely to understand it more thoroughly. Additionally, asynchronous learning lends itself better to a fast-growing business. If you have hundreds or thousands of learners to train across the world, you can get them up to speed without the need for face-to-face training. Here are the cons of synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning. Learners adhere to a specific training schedule and can access content where and when they like. Some learners may feel they're not receiving the individual attention they need. Quality of the sessions depend on the instructor. Synchronous learners have to be online at a certain time, and therefore their learning has to adhere to a specific training schedule. Learners can't access content where and when they like. To accommodate your learners and offer more flexibility, you could provide a webinar recording of the training session through your LMS. Due to the group dynamic of real-time synchronous learning, some learners may feel they're not receiving the individual attention they need. This is especially true if there's any part of the training they do not fully understand. To bypass this, try checking in on the progress of your learners by setting aside time during training for one-to-one or group Q&A sessions. The effectiveness of how well your learners understand the course content depends more on the quality of the instructor than the learners themselves. To overcome this, ensure your instructors receive relevant training so they're fully prepared for their role. Requiring instructors to plan their sessions ahead of time will also ensure they will deliver a great learning experience for the learners. Cons of asynchronous learning. Contact through asynchronous learning may be limited, leave some learners feeling isolated. Learners need to be self-disciplined and motivated to complete their courses. Although learners may have access to an instructor, contact through asynchronous learning may be limited. Answers to queries cannot be given instantly. For example, learners may need to wait for an answer to an email. This can be overcome by ensuring you choose an LMS that makes communication as easy as possible. The lack of interaction with instructors and fellow learners leaves some individuals feeling isolated. This could lead to a lack of motivation and engagement in courses. So, combat learner isolation by focusing on creating great course content. Asynchronous learning is learner-centered, so those taking courses in this way need self-discipline and focus to be successful in completing the required course. Depending on the learning objective, learners can benefit from both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Each offers its bright sides and, of course, its drawbacks. Ultimately, the style of learning that an educator chooses for the learners will be determined by a number of factors, including learning objectives, the types of course content that he or she creates, how to provide training, and the learner's availability. However, if the educator has the resources, combining synchronous and asynchronous learning can be a winning combination. For example, creating an asynchronous course with supplementary live webinars scheduled on different days and times guarantees that learners have the added benefit of engaging with one another and instructors. Alternatively, blended learning is another option that supports both synchronous and asynchronous learning opportunities. Variety is the ideal strategy. Regardless of the method chosen by the instructor, when creating a course, try to keep the learner as interested as possible by combining several ways of material delivery. A combination of components such as video, text, and graphics will certainly capture the learner's attention.